My husband of 20 years is cheating on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. I, 41-year-old female, am a stay-at-home mom. My husband, 48-year-old male, whom we'll call Paul, works in finance. We have been married for nearly 20 years. We have 2 kids, whom we'll call Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the lights of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Our son Eric has a girlfriend, 18F, whom he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love, and she's someone I've always considered as family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week, I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen and got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she misses sucking his private. I froze in place, in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it because over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM. He clearly has a nude addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, it was still the proof I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments and saw more of their interactions. I wish I had never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things said at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He would call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy laughing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive and acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made 0 sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, shock I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed on how to handle this because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I have no idea how to even broach this completely messed up topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There's so many layers to all of this, and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I haven't confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. My brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog-type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18, 22 or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform, and a French-maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school, and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation, and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months ago, like on my husband's cloud. almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also nonstop insistent that their friendship only became romantic, physical recently, and before that she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy, justifiably so, of course. Mary is recollecting moments and times she watched her dad interact with her friends, and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. We're all safe and still at my brother's house. We're very careful and his house is secured. Paul has tried to call my cell phone several times a day. I am refusing to interact with him, and I will have my lawyer handle all correspondence. He scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and deadbolt locks. We feel safe with him. Both my son and I got checked out and tested. It appears so far that we're both clean based on the immediate rapid tests, but in the coming days we'll know for certain when the lab results come in. I'm not overly concerned. Eric is scheduled to see a therapist early next week, which is very good and needed. He's not himself right now. He seems a bit shell-shocked, and I am concerned. He internalizes a lot, and it's hard to get a read on what's going on in his head. That being said, he's thoughtful and has been talking with me, asking me how I'm doing and everything. He's not interested in corresponding with his dad at all. He calls only my cell phone, and he hasn't tried to reach out to either Eric or Mary. I get the sense that Paul is extremely nervous. He's scared, and I think he deep down knows that if investigated thoroughly, he would be in big trouble. That's what my gut is telling me. I still think about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it looked like he was a man whose entire world was crashing down on him. The panic in his face was very apparent. I offered Mary for me to make an appointment with a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She said she's open to it eventually, but wants time to herself. She's been asking her friends about her dad and if they experienced any creepiness from him. Her friends were open and honest with her, and apparently, they felt like he stared a lot and sensed his hovering presence whenever they were over. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt like he was checking her out a lot, like looking at her rear and complimenting the color of her yoga pants. At the time, no issue was brought up about it, but in light of everything that has been happening, it seems strange now. He would sit himself in different areas or vantage points to get a good view of her, she claimed. He also asked questions about what kind of friend group or which clique they were in at school. He kept asking about if they were popular girls. I'm completely embarrassed that they had this experience at our house. As for updates on Amy, which is the main reason why I wanted to write this update, I completely agree that she is also a victim. A lot of people have been emphasizing that, and I agree. I've done everything I could in my own power to indirectly get her opportunities to get help. Like I said, I told her mother, and she's been updating me on everything. Amy, unfortunately, is still living in her deluded reality, and I can only pray that she'll eventually come to her senses. She doesn't want to see any doctors or therapists at all and has been constantly trying to reach Paul because, again, she believes that they are in love. From what I've been told, she hasn't been able to get hold of him, and he's been avoiding communication with her completely. Amy blames me for that and believes I took away his devices and am very controlling. Any truth that her mother tries to convey to her is met with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy looks at me as a villain and still sees Paul through rose-colored glasses. Her mother showed her screenshots of his dating app profiles and matches, and she refuses to believe it, saying I photoshopped it. According to her mom, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is just mad because she found herself a real man and that I'm jealous because she takes better care of him than I do. It's in line with some of the conversations I screenshot, where a lot of what Paul says is him complaining about things I don't do for him sexually. Right now, she's insistent that she and Paul will be together in the long run. Ugh, he's honestly a slimeball. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but me directly intervening doesn't feel like it would be productive at the moment, maybe eventually though. As for the divorce, it's very much underway. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it all because it's ongoing, and I want to make sure everything is going to go smoothly. I got temporary custody of Mary. Paul also has to pay temporary child support. There's a protective order. Paul can't contact us or come near us. Right now, we're just focusing on getting through this legal mess. Again, not getting into specifics because I don't want to mess anything up, but what I'll say is I'm very confident, divorce aside, that there's overwhelming evidence against Paul that will get him in serious trouble and it will impact him for the rest of his life. I'm sure eventually I can share more about that. I know a lot of people are concerned about his predatory ways, and I just wanted to convey this, even though I have to be vague right now. Justice will come. All of your concern about how my kids are doing psychologically means a lot to me. Eric has been to therapy twice over the last 2 weeks. I know some people thought I was dismissive of him and acting like he's doing okay. I very much know that he's hurting internally, and we're doing everything we can to make sure he knows he is supported and loved. My brother has been amazing in spending time with Eric and Mary, and both of them have confided in him about a lot. My brother has a very healthy marriage, and both he and his wife have really stepped up to the plate for all of us. Mary has not seen a therapist yet, but she promises that she will be open to seeing one soon. Her anger has mostly turned into sadness, I noticed, and I hope I can get her to see a therapist soon. Her friends have played a key role in this whole thing, and that's something that Mary has been grappling with as well. I know a lot of people are invested in the well-being of Amy as well. There were a lot of questions about whether Eric and Amy would still see each other at school. It sounded like they go to the same school, but they do not. Eric and Amy went to the same junior high school and knew each other even then, but Amy ended up going to an all-girls Catholic high school while Eric, and Mary too, stayed in the public school system. We all lived in the same town, and over the summer heading into freshman year is when they were getting to know each other and when they started dating. I wish I had a better Amy update, but it's gotten a lot worse since the last update. Paul has actually been seeing Amy, despite her mother trying to force her not to see him. She tells me that Amy says she's 18 and an adult and she can do what she wants. Her mother is in a precarious spot because if she kicks Amy out of the house for defying her, something that she has threatened to do, which I think is a mistake, she would just run to Paul permanently. The time she spends with Paul has increased over the last week, despite the fact that Paul initially ghosted her when all of this first hit the fan. There were some days where Amy would just be gone for hours on end. There's only so much I could do with the Amy situation, but again, I do believe things will turn around soon with that, given what I know about Paul and what's to come. I can only pray that Amy can get help and guidance when more stuff hits the fan. I'm doing everything I can with my own kids and my own mental health, and Amy's mom knows she has my support, and that's all I could really provide. I slept with my sister's husband after she passed away. My older sister passed away 7 months ago. It was an accident, so totally unexpected, and I still don't believe she's actually gone most of the time. It feels unreal. Our family still hasn't recovered, and I don't know when or if we ever will. My sister was 10 years older than me. I'm 22, and she would be 32 now. She and her husband have 2 kids, both under 5 years old. My family has been helping him with the kids. He's a good dad, But understandably, to suddenly become a single parent to two very young kids, all while needing to maintain his job and dealing with the grief of losing his wife, he needs help. He moved here because my sister wanted to be near us, her family. She wanted to raise her kids where we're from, where she grew up. He's from another state originally, but he agreed to settle down here when they got married because it was so important to my sister. I think we're all nervous he'll move away now that he has no reason to stay, and we won't get to see the kids often. I just graduated college in the spring. This past year I was helping out with my niece and nephew a lot. I often picked them up from daycare and things like that because I have a flexible schedule compared to everyone else. I've always got along with my brother-in-law really well. He's always been nice to me and treated me like a little sister. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to him for advice, especially regarding guys and things like that. It's easier to talk to him about certain things because he gives me more honest, unbiased advice than my parents or sister. I really thought my sister was so lucky, and he was like the type of guy everyone wants to marry. Good looking, good job, great dad, really personable, responsible, just like the definition of the complete package. My sister had been with him since they were both freshmen in college, and we all knew she was going to marry him the first time we met him. Even me as a little kid knew he was the one. I slept with my brother-in-law this weekend. I was over there on Friday. I picked the kids up from daycare, which I do every Friday since I only work a half day. I made dinner over there. I had no intention of having sex with him or trying to have sex with him. I've not been aiming for this to happen. He initiated it. I didn't say no. It started with kissing, then he started taking my top off, and I let him do it. He didn't force me, to be very clear. He's never done anything that I'd consider inappropriate with me or towards me. At the time, I enjoyed it. It made me feel so good that he wanted me, but at the same time I kept thinking, this is wrong, this is wrong. I sort of just laid there. It was very much about him getting off. I think he just needed it, to feel comforted or something. Afterwards, we got dressed and didn't say anything. Then he said he was really sorry and that we shouldn't have done it. I told him it was okay. He said he'd prefer if we don't tell anyone about it. I didn't plan to. I feel so dirty about it. It was so wrong. I feel like a little kid who has done something that they're going to get punished for, and I'm convinced somebody is going to find out. My ex-girlfriend and my best friend cheated on me. I, 24-year-old male, am a doctor who graduated from my med school last year only. Doctors here in India have a late start, and therefore I'm still dependent on my parents for my basic needs. This background I'm writing is to establish that I'm not someone who can take big risks or decisions for life which require finances and settling down in life. I met her 25-year-old female in my first semester at med school. We were both very innocent and honest. Neither of us had ever dated anyone before. She was my closest friend, and I was her only friend. We hung out for nearly a year, went on dates, and finally entered into a relationship when we felt the time was right. First love, first relationship, we were idolized by everyone around us. She had a very strong personality, could easily get offended, argue, or debate expressing her feelings and displeasure. My best friend hated her and didn't respect her since day one. Even she never liked him but gave the relationship a few chances because he was so close to me. But this guy always made her feel lesser and avoided talking to her. I had to intervene so many times to resolve things to maintain my mental peace. He was a popular alpha guy in our institute and was pretty good at getting almost all the women he ever wanted. We had a group of 9-10 members, and slowly over the years my girlfriend too became a part of it, but only as my girlfriend. Around 4 years passed by and we were stronger than ever. But this was the end of our course and we all had to separate and depart to our respective cities. It was difficult, but I held myself pretty well. But she was shattered. She was so obsessed with me, would fall asleep after crying all night long for the first few weeks. Then, a month later, this best friend of mine had an exam for a foreign PG course, which happened to be in her city post the exam. He wanted to explore the famous place, spending a weekend there. He invited everyone from our group who were around to spend time with him, including my girlfriend. All 6 of them together rented an Airbnb for 3 days. I couldn't be there due to family restrictions and regretted it all the time. I talked to them every day, at every single time possible. They went to pubs, partied all night, ate out at the best cafes, etc. Suddenly, post that weekend, my girlfriend's behavior changed. We started having more fights and less resolutions. She cared lesser and lesser each passing day. We were going to meet each other at the graduation ceremony in a couple of months, so I ignored these events and was only excited to see her ASAP. We all met, and that was probably the last time I genuinely smiled or felt good about something. She broke me, wasn't even looking at me properly, as if I didn't exist. She was good with others, having a great time, and here I was dying bit by bit from the inside. I noticed a lot, caught the signs which were so obvious, but was busy begging her for the attention and love I was imagining belonged to me. I tried my best to save the relationship, but she pushed me hard and far enough to finally end things between us, officially. The suffering began, and I was thinking about it all the time, alone in my hometown. I was constantly in touch with my best friend who would listen to me and support me. He was the only person, the only friend I had. A few months later, my now ex planned a similar post-exam trip to my best friend's hometown, invited everyone around except me. My best friend called me, but I again could not go due to the restrictions at home. Just when this trip ended, I got an anonymous call, telling me that my best friend and my ex had been hooking up for a while, and even at the time when we were dating. This completely broke me. The only two people whom I trusted and loved the most, shared all my pain and feeling with, were the ones cheating on me for all these months. I could see all those signs here and there, but couldn't care less to pay attention because how could that ever be possible? Obviously, both of them denied all of it. Others also knew about it, individually would confirm it happening with little details, but nobody was talking or was ready for a confrontation. Nobody supported me because there wasn't any evidence. No pictures or videos, no texts or confession recordings, only denial. Very quickly and swiftly, everybody went ahead with their lives, and here I got diagnosed with severe depression. I started my medical treatment. It's been around 7 months and I still need it. I haven't been able to move on from all that betrayal to date. So many unanswered questions, and only imaginary assumptions as answers. Is this common? Your best friend, just for some fun, secretly playing with your life, ruining everything, and then leaving with zero accountability, not in contact with either of them or anyone from that group.